okutekereza sente. Enkola eyo yali yakozesa steel bars, ne bakozesa embaawo, ne bakozesa obutimba, kwegamba ng'omuntu akola structure mu nnaku ntono nnyo. Tetugamba nti okukozesa obutimba, embaawo ne steel mu kuzimba kikyamu, naye engeri gye baali bakikolamu yali nkyamu. Olw'okuba enkola eno yali terina kulambikibwa bulungi, nga nawano yali tennaba kuyita mitendera mituufu, nasalawo nga mmaze okufuna okuwabulwa okuva mu National Building Review Board ne mu national nga nkozesa etteeka erimpa obuyinza obwo, nga nenteekawo legal notice namba 11 gye nateekawo mu September 22, neŋŋamba nti enkola eyo eyimirire, tejja kukola. Bwe twagiyimiriza, of course abantu bakayana, abaali bagikola abamu bagenda ne mawulire ne bawandiika za articles nnyingi nga bannayuganda bwe bataagala kulaba bintu bipya, abamu nti balina nsaalwa. Naye kyenakola kwe kuteekawo ka komiti k'abantu abakugu nga mulimu ne university zaffe ne baprofesa bangi, baali abantu 11, tubagamba munoonyereze ku nkola eno. Ekikulu mu byonna, enkola eno etuwa ekizimbe ekitaleeta bulabe eri abagenda okukikozesa. Ekyo kyekyali gwe gwali omulamu omukulu, kubanga ebizimbe byonna ebikozesebwa birina okuba nti tebireeta bulabe eri abagenda okubikozesa. Bwe banoonyereza bakisanga nti enkola eno yali ejja kuleeta obulabe. Lwaki? Okusooka yali terina na guidelines, zetuyita guidelines, oba okulaga nti otabula bwoti, okola bwoti, nga bwayagala bwakola. Ne bw'onoomukwata tulina, kubanga industries ezisinga kati nga zino eziri technical, tulina kye tuyita manuals, nti okuzimba kulina manual yaako, oluguudo lulina manual yalwo. Bw'oba totuukiriza biri mu manual oba omenya etteeka. Naye kati kino kyo kyali kizze nga kigudde bugwi, tewali na guidelines, tekirina manual muntu gy'agoberera. Kubanga leero gwe Katumba bwe nkikola, enkya oli bw'agenda okikola agoberera ki ekimugaidinga tiboti bw'olina okikola? Tebyaliwo, tebiriiwo. Kaakati ne bakizuula ti enkola teyali ntuufu, era n'ebirala bingi ebyali bibulamu. Ekyokulabirako, abantu basala embaawo tezinnakala, ne bagenda ne bazikozesa, ne bayiwako concrete n'ebirala. Emitayimbwa gyennyini egikozesebwa girina kubeera size ki? Ebyo byonna byali tebiriiwo. Kati enkola eno tulaba nga nkyamu. Bwe bagenda okunoonyereza, bakola sample ku sites nga zembabuulidde ze bagendamu okunoonyereza abantu mukwe baali bazimba, ne bagenda e Mukono, ne bagenda e Wakiso, ne banoonyereza, ne basanga nti sites ezaali 2954 ze banoonyerezaako, sites nga 138 zaali zikozesa enkola eno eteri ntuufu. Kaakati ne tulaba ng'ejja kuba ng'ereeta obuzibu. N'olwekyo enkola eno okusinziira ku kunoonyereza kw'abakugu tugiyimiriza, terina kukozesebwa. Ekyebuuzibwa nti waliwo abaali bagitandiseeko, abaali batandise ebizimbe byabwe, binaaba bitya? Ekyetaagisa kati abakugu bajja kgenda, tusobola okuyita abakugu okuva mu National Building Review Board, ne bajja ne balaba ekizimbe kyo nga bwe kiri. Bwe bakiraba nga kisobola okuyambibwa, okulongoosebwa, bajja kulambika bulungi kikyolina okukola. Otherwise bwe bakisanga ng'ate kibi nnyo nga tulina nakyo bw'osobola kiddaabulula, tujja kimenya, tetujja kukkiriza kukimaliriza kukisulamu. Ensonga zezo zembadde mu bufunze ezikwata ku enzimba eno eyeekozesa steel n'embaawo n'engalama n'obutimba. Yes. Okay. Kakati ekyo nja kirekera omukugu wange ono. You have had the question. No, what they are saying is, after your investigation, much as the technology was stampeded, in your investigation, would you recommend how in future it can be corrected and used? What would be required to have it used in future if we are going to use it as a construction method?
Buildings are different. And if we have those differences, then no single engineer can give you a same solution for different situations where you're building. So on that premise alone, selling a method of construction with particular sizing and particular specifications is not acceptable, but we gave it a benefit of doubt. So what the technical committee did was to assess the method on its merits and found that the method as it is simply unsafe. I'll give you an example, Honorable Minister. The technical committee tested at least 132 welds. The Nevioma steel and the beams and concrete in almost all the sites were joined by welding. Now, most welding that we are used to is the one of windows and doors. He welds here and there and there, and we call that spot welding. Now, you're putting that same welding in a floor that is supporting 100 children in a class. Concrete alone, the slab they use 100 millimeters thick, weighs about 500 kilograms in a square meter without the building being occupied. And it is being supported by connections which are spot welds. We are sitting on a time bomb. It's a matter of time, these connections will give way. And we even got an external resource to test the welds, just the connections. And 132 welded connections were tested. And of those, the recommendation by an independent person who was not even part of the technical committee was that 85% of those welds were unacceptable and had to be redone. But some of these buildings were already occupied. So effectively, it would mean you have to evacuate and redo the connections. However big or however good your elements would be, if the connections are bad, you have no building. So kati walwe engeri jetu
maximizing a space n'akasente kakola ki?
So, developers out there.
I thought that's what it was known for. Muyimbi, you going naked. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, you're welcome. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We have before me, or before us, this is the board of the National Building Review Board. And I hope some of you, or many of you, know what the National Building Review Board is. There are two things we are doing in one. The first one is they were presenting to me the report, their annual. Somebody saying, I'll give you a house in 6 months and it will be ready to, for occupation. Now, we got concerned, of course, and on the 19th of September of 2020, and the National Building Code of 2019. So what is the way forward now as we move on? The building committees, they are told they must refrain from approving building plans without a design report, drawings showing connections, connection details, sizing of structure elements, specifications for materials, and your geotechnical investigation report. You'll get a copy of this for your consumption. The building committee should request developers of already existing STC structures to submit detailed structural integrity assessment reports, which should be carried out by registered engineers before an occupation permit. Otherwise, those structures should be brought down because they are illegal and they are unsafe. Ensure that the STC structures which can be retrofitted are strengthened and brought into compliance with the building regulatory framework. On investigation, they could find that this building actually could be saved by retrofitting it with the normal way of construction. If that is recommended by the building committee, that will be in writing to the developer to know what he is supposed to do. So you as a developer of the already, if you have your brother or somebody who already has an existing STC structure, what can he do now not to be in conflict with the law? Engage qualified professional engineers to carry out a structural integrity of your structure to see whether that construction can be retrofitted, and they can make proposals for that. 2, apply for occupation permits from the appropriate committees before you're occupying that building, because we don't want another Kitezi in the construction industry. To Uganda to the Uganda National Bureau of Standards, require steel suppliers to indicate grade and manufacturer on the structural steel sections on sale. This one we are going to liaise with the UNBS. I don't know whether many of you have ever bought iron bars, and do you know who has manufactured it? Do we even mind? It's after the building has collapsed and we go into investigations, that's when we start finding where did the mitaimba come from. Enforce the requirement for all timber producers to mark their products as required by the standards. This one, I think we have a big game to play here. I don't know how many of them would, because some of them cut from forest to site. Formulate timber standards for engineering purposes and make them mandatory. Now to the board and Uganda Institute of Professional Engineers, you must discipline the professionals who negligently stamp drawings for which a design basis is not available and who fail in their duty. We must have very strict punishments for this, because that person is putting in danger the lives of the people who would be occupying that structure. We need to arrange for continuous professional development courses for all our people involved in the construction industry, including welders, plumbers, electricians. You know, somebody comes and says, "Kanakawaya kaja kola mzee," and because you want to serve, you say, "Go ahead," but you're endangering yourself and possibly your family. Yeah. Require each professional engineer to file projects that have been certified to ERB as a precondition for renewal practicing license. And now the board, again, you should review the Building Control Regulation 2020 to include all these other things, welding, plumbing, and the rest which may not be specifically spelled out. Otherwise, I want to thank you very much for attending. And if you are in case you have any questions, I have a very able team here on the National Building Review Board to answer, plus the technical team which was involved in the investigation of this particular technology which had come on the market. It had actually hit the market with like a storm. People are rushing to say we are saving money. We are going to get buildings very fast but then the dangers were many. So thank you very much. I will take any questions, if any.
I'd like to understand, after banning, what happens to the buildings that are already going on?
After?
After banning these methods,
Yes.
what happens to the already 438 buildings?
Yes, that's what I said in my statement, that they can be investigated, and if they find they can retrofit them, those which can be retrofitted could be saved. Those which we find were highly compromised, then we shall recommend they will be demolished.